like to bring this board meeting to order on Tuesday, August 14, 2008 at 6:34 p.m. Please stand and join for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have a cell phone, will you please turn it off or put it on vibrate, please? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Moreno?
Here.
Mr. Rolla?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here. I need a motion to approve the minutes for July 9th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? No discussion. Roll call. Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Governing Board President, I would like to take this time to alter the agenda. I wanted to delete 2 items, please. The items would be items 4.17 and 4.18, out-of-state travels. I'm just asking to delete those items. Thank you.
We still have to amend the agenda.
Yes.
I need a motion to amend the agenda.
Well, Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So Mr. Rolla's motion had not been seconded, so he could choose to withdraw it, and you could start over, or he could just amend it pursuant to the superintendent's request, and you could go from there.
Just like to amend the amendment on the removal of those.
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
And now you move. Now he moves to amend the agenda.
Now you want to amend the agenda?
There's a time motion on the table.
Motion to accept the agenda as it was amended.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the superintendent to repeat which items are being struck.
3.7,
3.7?
4.17.
4.17,
4.17, 4.18, they were out-of-state travels.
4.17 and 4.18?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call, Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. At this time, I'd like to turn this over to Superintendent Abrego for recognitions and celebrations.
Thank you very much. And we have a lot of individuals that are new, and we would like to recognize all the individuals. So when I call your name, would you please stand? We've got quite a few, but if you would stand, we want to recognize you. So we have changes in administrative positions. One change is Dr. Jeanette Patterson is the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction. Dr. Patterson, would you stand? Thank you. We have Ms. Sheila Burke, Executive Director of Federal Programs, Interventions, and Technology. Mr. Matt Schwartz is the Director of Teaching and Learning. Ms. Darcy Moore, Executive Director of Human Resource, Legal, and Risk Management. Ms. Veronica B.J. Jeffers, Principal Coach. Ms. Tanya Lopez, Manager of Culture and Language Development. Ms. Jamie Ball, Assessment and Accountability Manager. Janelle Fuller, K-3 Early Literacy Supervisor. Ms. Shay Carter, Director of Student Services. Mark Lanston, Educator Effectiveness Manager. Leon Rodriguez, Manager of Operations and Maintenance. I believe he's coming in from another state. Probably not here. Also, we have Al Francisco, Manager of Transportation, Grounds, and Security. Kasha Larson, Manager of Nutrition Services and Warehouse. Dr. Martha Loera, Assistant Principal at Adams City High School. Robert Kelly, Assistant Principal at Adams City High School. Tom Delgado, Assistant Principal at Lester Arnold High School. Jennifer Lindberg, Assistant Principal at Adams City Middle School. Tom Solik becomes the Principal of Kearney Middle School. Nathan Cabrera, Assistant Principal of Kearney Middle School. Don Bernard becomes the Principal of Alsup Elementary. Jarrett Henson, Assistant Principal at Alsup Elementary. Todd Wynn, Principal, Hanson Elementary. Luis Camas, Principal of Rose Hill Elementary. David Haggerty, the Assistant Principal at Rose Hill Elementary. Ruben Chacon, Manager of Student Interventions. Alex Sanchez, Strategic Communications Manager. And last but not least, Jesse Martinez, Public and Parent Communications Supervisor. I'm sorry. Mr. Sean Milner is our Executive Director of Operations. Let me just say it one more time. Sean Milner, Executive Director of Budget, Operations, and Construction. I apologize, Sean. And that is our staff.
Thank you. And thank everybody for joining Adams 14. We really appreciate it and have a fantastic year. Thank you. Moving on to our audience comments. Before we start with audience comments, I want to share some brief highlights from Board Policy BEDH regarding public participation at board meetings. All citizens who will be speaking this afternoon have already viewed the vision of policy BEDH. Anyone in the audience would like to copy of the full policy can request one from Monica. Please remember, state your name. You have 3 minutes to speak. All comments need to be district related. Your comments can suggest improvements but should be productive. You can provide written statements to the board for review. The president can recognize a board member or the superintendent to respond to questions to clarify a district position. Monica, please.
Catherine Garcia.
Hello, I'm Catherine Garcia, and I'm a new mom. I have an 8-month-old son named Owen, and I have been paying attention to what's been happening in the Adams 14 school district, and I'm very concerned about the state of the schools. So concerned, actually, that I asked my mom to watch my son so that I can come down here and talk to you all. I've been doing some learning about what's happening in our district. I have watched some members of my family struggle through these schools, and actually a lot of my family is driving their kids into Denver because of the inconsistencies in the Adams 14 school district. I know that less than 18% of students in Adams 14 elementary schools are at grade level for math and reading. I also know that this district is one of the worst performing districts in the state and has been for the last 8 years. I stand before you tonight as a mother who is looking to you to make changes quickly to fix the state of education in this district. We cannot let this continue. We have to change something. I do not always have a car to drive my son into Denver to get him to school, nor do I want to. I do not want to have to leave this city to find a good school, and as a parent, I should not have to. I hope that Adams 14 moves forward with a sense of urgency to fix the problems that are impacting our schools. We can't wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabiola Sanchez.
I just gotta grab my translation. I'm sorry. It's
Okay.
raining out, everyone.
Do our people translate?
I can do it. Hi. It's okay. Sorry, we were running in the rain.
Hola, mi nombre es Fabiola y soy dueña de una pequeña empresa en Commerce City y soy madre. Me presento ante ustedes hoy para solicitar que esta junta escolar tome medida urgente para solucionar los problemas que tenemos en nuestro distrito. Este año nuestros niños están a punto de ingresar a la escuela donde menos de 3 estudiantes en la aula están leyendo a nivel de grado y donde 4 de cada 10 no se graduarán de la escuela secundaria. Todo.
Hello, my name is Favi, and I am a small business owner in Commerce City and a mom. I stand before you today to ask the school board to act urgently to fix the problems we have in our district. This year, our children are about to walk into schools where less than 3 students in the classroom of 30 are reading on grade level, and where 4 out of 10 students will not graduate from high school. I look at you tonight as the school board, to remind you of your leadership. You must be bold and act to address the parts of our district that are failing our kids. Our kids will not get this year back. Whether or not you act to bring more quality to Adams 14 is up to you, but our kids do not have time to wait. We as parents ask you to act and consider bringing in a high-quality option to Adams 14. I do not understand why you would not welcome them into the school district where so many students are getting left behind.
Fabiola. Fabiola.
Skip.
¿Me puede llenar su dirección? Ángel Plata.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angel Plata. I was a graduate from Adams City 2017. Right now, I'm currently a sophomore at a community college of Denver. I'm here today. I'm trying to defend the name of Guardiola, not just because he's a good friend to me, a father figure, and a great mentor, but because I have younger siblings that are going up into this district, and I know that he helped a lot of people. I know that he helped me a lot, and I'm going to compare a little poem that it's also a story. So, I was born in Chihuahua, Mexico. I was brought to America on false hopes and something called the American dream. I was told at a young age I would never succeed. I grew up in a community that pushed me away because of my social status. I grew up in a low-income house that at times it even lacked food. I got tired of living this way. I decided to make decisions to help my family move forward by any means. I made bad decisions, and these bad decisions made my younger siblings follow my footsteps. I made decisions that put me in jail and hurt my family. I dropped out of school at a young age, and I was not the best example. I didn't like my siblings following to my footsteps, so I left home. I made worse and worse decisions. These decisions got worse every year. My decisions got me murdered at age 21. My murder led to many bad decisions. a decision from many people, a killing vengeance from a family member, and many broken hearts. My story lives on to inspire my family, to inspire others that have had the privilege to hear my story and learn from my mistakes, to rid this world of hatred and to lead everyone to find love for each other and find forgiveness not only for themselves, but to others who hurt them. This is the story of my older sister. My older sister was murdered when I was going into my senior year of high school. She was 21 years old and I was barely turning 18. It's really hard even to hear this, so from my part to speak of it, it breaks my heart. And at times when family wasn't able to be there, I had people like Guardiola that was there. I knew Guardiola's face because he was probably the only person that had a permanent stay at my school. Every year I had a new principal, every year I had new teachers, and Guardiola was the one person that was always there. And I never got the chance to know him until my senior year. He came out to me. He was there the night that I found out my sister had been murdered. He was there all throughout the year. He helped me fill out application after application. He helped me fill out letter after letter, and he helped me get into college. And I was that younger sibling that followed into those footsteps. I made a lot of bad decisions that hurt not only myself, but my family. And now I'm thankful to say that I've changed a lot. I became the person that a lot of people told, you know what, you're not going to be anything in life, you're not going to graduate. I heard that from even my own family, from my own parents telling me that, you know what, you're going to grow up to work in construction and help us pay rent. And Guardiola was one of the few people that actually helped me, and I was thankful that I was able to have Mr. Thompson as my president at the time, as my principal. And I was thankful to have people like Jesse Ramirez inspire to help me get through that. And I was also the family member that went after vengeance. It wasn't the best decision. It was a decision that could have either put me 6 feet under or in jail. And Guardiola was there for me step by step, helped me get rid of that, helped me find forgiveness for this person, helped me find love in my heart, and helped me continue the story of my sister. And it's kind of hard to believe that 2 years ago, I had people tell me, you know what, you're going to end up dead. If you go through with this, you're going to end up no better than your sister. You're going to hurt your family even more. And now I'm an honors student at Community College of Denver. And last weekend, I was invited to join the, one second, I have the name here. I was joined to ask the Community College of Denver's chapter of the National Society of Leadership and Success. It's also called the Sigma Alpha Pi. And it's honestly a great honor, and I am planning to take that and add something to my record, and just to prove people that, you know what, people like this aren't just there to do their job. They're there to connect to people. They're there to help people through life. If it wasn't for Guardiola and Mr. Thompson and Jesse, people that were there for me, I probably wouldn't even be here to be able to share this story. It hurts me knowing that this district is not going in the right way, knowing that I have 2 siblings and that I was put in the position to be the older sibling to 2 little brothers. I was put in the position to be a parent and to be their mentor. And I'm trying to leave the best pathway for them, and I just want to make this district the best as possible for them to grow up and for them to succeed. Thank you for your time.
Nicholas Martinez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas Martinez, and I am here as a representative of both the leadership team of Transform Our Education Now and the parents who have shared their stories with us. The parents who have shared their pain, who have shared their struggle and their dreams for their children here in this district. We know that students in this district are falling behind. We also know that this district has not acted with the sense of urgency that it's needed over the last 8 years of being on the accountability clock. We are excited to hear that you are going to use the extension on the application for a new school to engage community. I challenge you to listen to those stories. Because if you do, You will hear the personal experiences that have made us cringe, the stories of students without schedules, the stories of students who are falling behind, the stories of the families who have fought to keep a bilingual education program so that they can share their culture, so that they can share their language with their children, but ultimately so that they can communicate with their loved ones, only to have that program be taken from them. And then to add insult to injury, that decision has set our students in this community even further behind. This fall, you all have a very serious responsibility to do things differently in this district. And we hope that you take that charge as seriously as it is. The status quo here is not good enough, and we need you to be bold, we need you to be innovative, because our children do not have time to wait, as you've heard already tonight. The children of Commerce City deserve better. Our first graders don't get a year back. Our fourth graders need you this year. Our seniors needed you 7 years ago to make dramatic changes to this district. It's time to step up as the leaders of your neighborhood. It's time to listen to your neighbors and do what is hard for our children. We know that none of these decisions are easy, and they do come with consequences, and they are difficult to make, but it is time to take those hard steps and do what is right, do what is new for this district. I ask you to please come to the table and work with the parents you've heard tonight, and the other parents that we have heard who have said that they need a better option in this district. We hope to see this school board work with a sense of urgency and with regard for the fact that every day that goes by where we do nothing, our children continue to fall further and further behind. Thank you.
Jose Guardiola.
Good evening. My name is Jose Guardiola. I'm an alumni, community member, and former employee of Adams 14. Worked here for about 6 years until unjustly they cut one position at Adams City High School and at Lester Arnold, limiting the opportunity for our kids to have more options to go to college, the post-secondary position. To this day, I still have not heard from HR why they cut my position. I've emailed, no response. I'm not here to talk about personnel issue. That's another legal problem or legal issue. But I'm here to answer Dr. Abrego, your superintendent's question. Last board meeting, he said, weren't you at Adams City and they were still at turnaround? Yes, I was. I will hold myself accountable for that. But what he didn't tell you with his fake news or /lies is that we were going up. If any educator would read articles like we do, the number one thing to turn around a school or transform a school is culture. Transforming school culture is how you get everything going up. This article that I brought, so if you guys want to read it, I'll give it to Monica. It says, positive school culture is the heart of the improvement and growth of any building. Any building. Consistency is second. Obviously, by everybody who's here new, we have no consistency here. And it's a revolving door. And they make shifts for people that are not qualified for those positions. We are losing for our kids. Just some numbers so you guys could remember what happened. In 2015, they moved me and a couple other colleagues up to Adams City High School. Just for the college, I'll give you an example of CSU, Colorado State University. In 2015, only 20 were admitted, 6 were enrolled. 2016, 46 were admitted, 36 enrolled. 2017, 51 admitted, 28 enrolled. This last year, 40 admitted, 18. We are going backwards. Daniels Fund, because Director Rolla said he don't want our kids to be in debt. Well, that's not true. You guys are so out of touch of what is college and post-secondary. 2015, Daniels Fund, Adams City had 1. 2016, they had 4. 2017, they had 5 out of 8. This past year, 2. 2015, scholarships, 800,000. 2016, 1.75 million. 2017, 2.6 million. This year, question mark. They didn't track it. Your old counselors told us we weren't told to track. So we don't know. I guarantee you we went down if we only had 2. So what I'm asking you guys today is to remove your superintendent. Which 3 of you board members are going to remove him, demote him, so we could bring someone in that's going to fight for our kids, our employees, and our community? If not, then we will have to take action to remove all 3 of you guys, because that's where we're going. Be the hero, be the voice for the kids, for the Angels, for the Kevins that want a good education. One more year is not. This year, this class of 2019 is going to be revolutionary. You guys thought the protest at graduation was bad? You got a lot of young activists coming up because they demand a good education. I brought some packets that I could give that show these numbers, so I'm not doing fake news. Thank you.
Jamie Wickersham?
All right. Good evening, Board of Administration. I'm Jamie Wickersham. I'm a senior at Adams City High School in Adams 14, and I'm here to ask for your guys' assistance with a matter I'm unable to resolve. Even though I'm a first-generation college student, I've always known that my next step was college. I've worked hard throughout my educational career to obtain my goal. My GPA entering my senior year of high school will be a 4.57, and this is good enough that last year I was offered a full-ride scholarship to study abroad in Germany. This has been one of the biggest milestones in my life so far and has affirmed my belief that no matter what situation you come from, you can make it if you persevere. But because of my year abroad, I was unable to take my SAT junior year. Upon return to the USA, I began taking the steps to prepare for the SAT, but quickly realized I was not able to afford the funding. I began reaching out to our new current administration for the fee waiver, and after a phone call, a meeting, and several unanswered emails, I just decided to give up and try to apply for the SAT in September, and that would vastly limit my scholarship opportunities, which isn't the best. However, being true to my perseverant self, I contacted my mentor, Tanya, and she demanded that I not give up. She helped me reach back out to the current admin, and they assured me that they would email her the waiver. While we did receive a letter from Mr. Duran, it's not the proper documentation that I need. The application asks for a 6-digit code that the school must provide, and following the letter, Tanya contacted Mr. Duran, and he said that the letter should suffice, but unfortunately, the letter is not accepted by the college board. And actually, on the way to this meeting, I received a phone call from Mr. Duran, and he said, if all else fails, I can meet him tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and using the school's credit card, we can fill out the SAT form together. But tomorrow is the last day that I can do it, and I really don't like the tight restrictions that the school has put on me. And since I was already on the way to this meeting, I decided that I needed to make you guys aware of the situation for not only myself, but all the other struggling seniors that aren't receiving help that they desperately need. Because a school is supposed to be your first point of contact. That's who I thought I was supposed to go to, but I didn't receive any help, I didn't receive any guidance, and when you can't go to your school, who should you go to? I understand that during this time of transition, I may just seem like a face in a sea of students, but this is my future and tomorrow is the last day. I'm desperate for any help to obtain this fee, and I would like to thank you all for your help.
Please, don't go nowhere. Superintendent, somebody in this building needs to help this young lady take care of that now. Get her the letter, get her the numbers, get her whatever she needs for her SAT, not tomorrow, as soon now. She need whoever now. Thank you. Monica, any more? That's the last one. Okay. We will move now to Superintendent's report. Dr. Abrego.
Thank you. I think we have a PowerPoint that we're going to present. There you go. Thank you. And the first slide I want to show is our organizational chart because we did make some changes. That's our new organizational chart. And over the past few months, I've been working very hard to realign and restructure our central office. Remember that the goal of restructuring is to strengthen our support to our schools, our students, our principals, our teachers, our parents, and our community. In our turnaround plan, it's very important that we have the right structures, systems, and leader in place to turn around Adams 14. Another very important concept is that we want everyone in the district to take responsibility for the vision of the district, so we want to empower all of our individuals and improve and strengthen our climate and culture. As far as working together, during our presentation, when we had our kickoff, we wanted to make sure that we sent the message that everyone in our district is important and that everyone has to work together in order to better our district. This includes bus drivers that bring our students to school and help them get there on time, our nutrition services who make our students eat healthy meals, to our building engineers who keep our schools safe and clean. And again, we want to emphasize to everyone that everyone in the district is important, and we need everyone's help to move our district to another level. Continuing on some of the slides, some of the highlights in our district, and we want to show the next slide, please. Some of the things that are going in our district, and one thing that's very important, at Alsup Elementary, they did receive their BEST grant, so we are going to be building a new school this year, starting hopefully in 2019, where the former Adams City High School campus used to be, so we are very grateful and thankful for that. We also want to transform the way how we communicate, and you can see that we're going to introduce a new Flyer Connect app that will change the way the district communicates with families. Also, transforming student engagement. We want to continue to implement the superintendent forums. We want to empower the DAC committee and the school advisors committees to get involved in our schools. And again, something that we want to show that our staff here, classified and certified, is that we appreciate all their hard work. And this year we were able to negotiate a 5% increase for their salaries. That will not just take place this year, 2018-19, but will also take place in the following year. And again, how are students doing on the Colorado measures of academic success? And again, this is some of the progress. Third grade English, language arts. We had Alsup, Central, DuPont, Kemp, Monaco. They saw gains. That would make it 5 out of 7 schools. But again, when we have 7 of 7 schools, that's what we're seeking. In third grade math, we had 6 of our 7 schools, Alsup, Central, DuPont, Hanson, Monaco, and Rose Hill. They all saw gains. And in the blue, you see a very important information. It says Alsup third grade students outperformed the state in total students who met or exceeded standards in math. And that's a great accomplishment when we're outperforming the state. Go back, Monica, please, because there was one other part in there. And you see that 12.5. That's not the students that met. Those are students that exceed the expectations. So, again, we were struggling at one time to get that many students to reach METs, but now we're having 12.5 exceed. So that's, again, we're doing our best to try to continue to improve our schools. The next slide, going into 4th grade again, we're not where we want to be, but we do have 6 out of 7 schools that moved up. They're showing gains, so that's what we need. As far as 4th grade math, and I will be the first to admit that we always linger a little bit behind in math, but we need to continue to improve because you can see at 4th grade, 3 out of 7 schools made gains, and we're not satisfied. We need to have all 7 if we're going to move our district to another level. Moving on to 5th grade. At 5th grade, language arts, again, language arts appears to be our stronger discipline because 6 out of 7 schools made gains and are showing improvement. When we go to math, in 5th grade, we're doing a little bit better. 4 out of the 7 schools are showing gains. So we continue to move up, but we won't be satisfied until we have all 7 schools moving up. Moving on to the middle schools. At our middle schools, we only have 2 middle schools. So in 6th grade, we have Adams City Middle School. So one of the two schools made improvement in language arts 6th grade. Again, our goal is always 2 out of 2. In 7th grade, we did reach that goal. Adams City Middle School and Kearney both improved and saw gains. Again, in math, when we go to 7th grade, Kearney Middle School showed improvement, and that was 1 out of the 2 schools. But we did bounce back in 8th grade. In 8th grade, both Adams City Middle School and Kearney Middle School both showed gains on the Colorado measures of academic success. And we continue to strive to improve. So in the area of reading, we know that reading affects all your other subjects. So we're very proud of the fact that Alsup kindergartens exited 53% of students that were on read plans. So that's outstanding. That means we're trying to start our students as early as possible to get them to read at grade level. So commendations go out to Alsup Elementary. Also, another note is DuPont Elementary. DuPont had the highest percentage of students in grades kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade who exited read plans. And again, once we can get students to read at grade level at an early stage, then we're hoping that everything will fall in line as far as performance in the higher grades. So again, we're trying to address the concerns and the challenges that we have in our district. We know that we are not what we want to be, but again, as a team, we're going to do the best we can. Access is helping our students learn English so they can have success in classes. And again, you can see how we did on Access. Adams City Middle School, Kearney Middle School, Alsup, DuPont, Kemp, they all met state growth expectations. So that's very good because it'll help our frameworks that will be coming out next week. As far as the high school had never achieved exceeds in this area in I don't know how many years, but they did. They were one of the highest in the state. They had 67% growth. So because they were able to achieve exceeds at the high school, it helped the district for the first time to get meets in this category. And those are valuable points that we need. And again, we will be getting news from the state next week, but we're pleased with where we're at. And again, you can see our 10th grade, our district scores, evidence-based reading and writing increased. But I want to just share with the board, we did get news on Monday on our growth, and we understand we're not what we should be, but hopefully we'll be sharing the official results with you when they come out, and you can see that our schools will continue to improve. We are not going to be happy until all our schools, we have no schools in the red category and the orange, and hopefully when this information comes out, we will not have any schools in red. If we have any in orange, we guarantee you that this is it. This is the last year. We have told all our schools, our goal is to not have any schools in red or orange after this year. So we'll continue to strive to improve, and when we get the news, we'll be definitely sharing it with our school board and the rest of our community. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Abrego, thank you for sharing that information. Once we have a better idea of how the CMAS data fits into the state performance framework, will the board be having some kind of study session or in-depth presentation to go through that data?
Yes, I believe last year I did a presentation where we showed them exactly how every school did individually, the number of students that were able to pass the test, if we're improving, if we're decreasing, which it is. So that, yes, we will have that information. And again, I can share that with the board. I believe that comes out. And once they release the embargo, which I believe is about August 27th, then we can even share with our community.
Dr. Hyde. Mr. Rowland. Thank you, Dr. Abrego.
Thank you.
We will move on to routine items. I need a motion to accept consent items 1.1, superintendent recommendation, personnel action.
Yeah, and excuse me, I'm sorry, Governing Board President, there appears to be an error, so could I make that correction at this time for you? It's on personnel items for administration. If you would please go to that. Under administration, it'd be the last one under personnel, and it would be item number 5. It should be item number 5, and it has the incorrect step. It should be range 6, step 7. So with that correction,
Did you get that, Dr.?
thank you. I apologize.
So once again, we'll now move to routine items. I need a motion to accept consent items 1.1, superintendent recommendation, personnel actions.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept consent item 1.1, superintendent's recommendation, personnel actions, with a correction to item number 5, striking 13 and inserting 7 behind step.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Can I have a roll call, Monica, please?
Dr. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Rolla,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye. Under policy item 2.1, I need a motion to approve policy JH revised, student absences and excuses on discussion and first reading.
So moved.
I second it.
Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead, Dr. Hyde.
Under attendance recording 1.1, it states that attendance shall be recorded within 10 minutes after class begins in the morning and within 10 minutes after class resumes after lunch. And I would like to have some clarification or some explanation of the importance of that policy. My personal experience has been, when I was teaching, I would take attendance when I had students doing some independent work or taking a quiz or something like that, so that I wasn't using valuable class time with attendance. So it seems to me it's valuable for the teacher to have latitude in what time during the period attendance is taken. So I'd like to understand your thinking behind that requirement.
So I also did teaching in classroom, and I've been doing this attendance piece for a few years. And one of the pieces that we've always worked with, both as a high school principal and then as a teacher, was when students start the class, obviously you need some time to, one, get your class organized, whether it's a warm-up or whether it's an activity or any of those pieces. So understanding that there needs to be that leeway with teachers is always important, but the other piece of it is we as educators are responsible for taking attendance in a timely manner in the classroom. And so let's say we don't take attendance and we wait an hour and then we have a fire alarm. We don't have an accurate attendance for that class, and so we don't have an accurate class roster. And if there's any sort of issue with emergency reunification, we don't have that accurate roster to go from, and so it becomes more of an issue on safety and security. The other component is that by requiring teachers to do and take attendance within those first 10 minutes, we as an administration are also then able to run a classroom management report, or a monitor report, excuse me. And that classroom monitor report allows us to see who has or who has not taken attendance throughout the course of the day. per requirements, as educators, again, we are required to take that attendance, and so it helps us monitor that we are indeed accurate with our counts as we move towards October count with our students, identifying students who aren't actively in class every day, and then it also helps us identify and really point our resources towards those students who are having trouble getting to class or coming to class late, whether it's parents dropping them off or moving forward. The other piece that Ms. Burke just pointed out is we have dialers that go out as well from our office. So when we have that attendance, those dialers will go out hourly. So we let parents know that their child's not there. So if a student doesn't show up, let's say within that first 10 minutes of school at an elementary school, if they're walking, many times parents are concerned that they weren't notified that their student wasn't in school. And so especially at the elementary level where we have students in classes, same class for a long period of time, if we allow that attendance to go for an hour or two, we then don't have that notification that's happening to parents in a timely manner.
So how, is attendance taken electronically?
Yes.
And does that automatically roll over into robocalls?
Yeah, so it's set up off of dialers. We recommend that we do the dialers, but we also recommend that we are pulling those reports so we can identify those students who are having issues getting to school and make that direct personal contact with parents so that we can then work with the parents. So to logistically do a call, personal call from an attendance officer on an hourly basis is just physically impossible, but with the mark of an absence and the setup of the robocalls, it will go to parents and let them know their child was not in class at that time or it's tardy.
So what's the elapsed time between, let's say, the beginning of class and the
I haven't timed that out, sir.
notification of a parent
I
that
don't
the
have that
child's
timed out.
not in class?
I wouldn't be able to. When school starts, I'm happy to use one of my employees as a guinea pig and say, hey, we're going to mark your daughter absent and see when you get the call.
Wasn't this practice in effect last year?
The practice of robocalls is in effect every year. What we have not had is the requirement of timely attendance. With attendance being a major concern in the district and obviously making sure students are, one, in class on time, and then that we have teachers taking attendance, it's just highlighting the importance of all of those aspects as we take attendance.
Good. Governing Board President, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Number one is I want to make sure that the board is aware that this is only the first reading, so it's not set in stone. We're going to have DAC committee look at it and provide their recommendations for the board. And I believe what Dr. Hyde was asking, the first one, elementary, it said for elementary school to take it the first 10 minutes because that would be take and roll for them in the morning. At the high school, we do it every period, so you don't have to necessarily do it in the morning, afternoon, but for elementary students, you would have to do it again in the afternoon to see if they might be gone in the afternoon. So, but again, these are, it's going to go through a process. This is the first reading, so it's not set in stone. We're going to have different people look at it, and then you'll get some revisions along the way.
But to follow back on Dr. Hyde, even though it's just saying elementary, it's not saying high school, it's not addressing elementary, so is it 2 minutes for high school? Is it 3 minutes? So is all district schools 10 minutes? Is that what it's saying?
Are you talking about when taking attendance?
Yes, please.
We want it to be done within 10 minutes.
So instead of saying, so when they say attendance recording at 1.1, a minimum, attendance at the elementary level will be recorded within 10 minutes after class begins in the morning. But it doesn't state.
I'm not sure why that's a distinction. If it's a requirement across all schools, why would we make that a special distinction for the elementary school? This is across all district schools. Within 10 minutes, they're taking attendance.
So we should scratch that and say district level
I'm not sure which policy you're looking at. You might be looking at the previous policy, not the red line policy.
Which one?
1.2.
So you have one that's all crossed out. That's the old policy.
Right.
And then you have a new one that doesn't have any marking on it. That's the new policy.
That's the one I'm reading.
And you were referring to 1.1. So in the elementary, I guess you're right. So no matter what, it's 10 minutes of taking that attendance at all levels.
Well, and you're, 1.2 addresses the secondary.
So I think I'm reading 1.1.
Yeah, and then 1.2 is the same, but it's for the secondary level. Excuse me, so I misread that first part as well.
But basically, I believe that we just want attendance taken immediately, the first 10 minutes of class, so we know we can keep our records accurate.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
And I just would, since this is the first reading, I would encourage the district to consider being a little more flexible and maybe expand, if I understand your arguments for having it at the beginning, but I think we ran into some flack last fall over this 10-minute issue. And so to make it the first 20 minutes or something seems that might be still early in the period, and yet, you know, if there's something else going on that's really urgent at the beginning of the class, it's not handicapping the classroom teacher.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of any flack from last year, so if that's the case, then again, this is the first reading, so as you go through the process.
It was a bone of contention with some of the teachers at Adams City High School, and so I just wanted to call that to your attention. And the other item is, it's just really a grammatical error, but on 6.3, it says tardy is defined as a student's arrival within 10 minutes of the scheduled start time for the class. I suggest that the preposition of be changed to after.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will say that, you know, the new proposed policy in comparison to the current policy, it's just a lot more specific. It's a lot more clear. So I do appreciate the work that you put into this, and I know that, you know, it'll go through a few more iterations before we get to a final product.
One of the things that I would like to share, if okay, is more around the 10 minutes. Part of that is around student safety. It's our obligation to make sure that we're aware of children that are in there. So should we have a child at any level, elementary, middle, high school, that goes missing, we want to know within that first few minutes so that we can capitalize on that minutes, because 20 minutes may be too late. The child can be further down, especially for our walking schools. So if we know right away and we have an emergency, and they don't happen often and they do happen, we want to make sure we can capitalize on that moment. We can notify parents, we can locate where the child is, and locate authorities should we need their support, and maximize those minutes. If we're waiting 20 minutes and a child is in a car where they shouldn't be, or walking somewhere else, then those minutes can be delayed, and our parents would want us to act accordingly and get that done as quickly as possible should a child not be there. So a child who's ditching class, who walked to the corner store that should have been at one of our elementary schools, and so on. And so that first 10 minutes helps us notify who's there and who's not, and also notifies the parents, indicating that they dropped off their child at school and that they're receiving an auto dialer indicating that the child was not on the school property.
Ms. Burke, what you've said, I think, argues for having a different time limit for elementary versus secondary.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, and when I taught, it was always 10 minutes at the high school level. And I think when Dominic was there, and Al and Ms. Burke and all them were there, they had to be in class within 10 minutes, and it was up to the teacher to have a warm-up on the board for the students that were there to start working while he or she took roll. So it's nothing new, and I don't know why we're battling it after, and I taught 36 years, and all of a sudden now it's almost 50 years, and now we're questioning this 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes is fine because it was the same thing. It was robocall. We got to make sure we let the parents know. And I know that even at the beginning when I started teaching, it wasn't electronic, it was hand. You had to check it because student aides had to come and pick up the roll sheets within 10 minutes to turn it into the office so they could make their calls. So I don't know why it's all of a sudden it's become a issue.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since Mr. Rolla brought it up, I guess I should own up to the fact that I was never there in those 10 minutes. But I always had a teacher's pass, so.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Roll call, Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Mr. Chairman, point of information. What's involved in a first reading as opposed to a second reading? And I thought a first reading did not have a vote.
Yes, it has a vote, but the staff will change the grammar errors that we brought up as the district. And then you can bring in more errors if you see like your if you want after and those type of things.
And Mr. Moreno would like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the first reading is really just the mere introduction of the measure.
Yeah.
And then it can be revised going
So
forward.
does it, what's the purpose of the roll call if it's just an introduction?
Mr. Chair?
It still has,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and maybe I'll turn this over to Mr. Farrow, but it still has to be formally introduced and needs to have a vote for the introduction of the policy before it can then,
Then move on to the,
that's right.
okay. Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Policy JH will move forward for the second reading and possible adoption. Policy item 2.2. I need a motion to approve policy JH-R, removal guidelines for student absences and excuses on discussion and first reading.
Mr. Chairman, I move Superintendent's recommendation for policy JHR, guidelines for student absences and excuses.
Second.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, one item of discussion that I did want to ask about this.
Yes.
It appears that we're deleting this from the policy book. Is it because it's being folded into that policy that we just voted to introduce? Something will still be in the district policy book, I imagine, correct?
Would it better be called a replacement?
Just a moment. Mr. Moreno first, then I'll let you.
I'm sorry, I can answer that. So we had JH and JH-R, which is the regulations. Our policy JH was really vague and open. Our then policy JH-R, which is our rules and regulations, wasn't very specific. So rather than saying, let's create this new document and then create another new document, let's just put it in more detail into policy JH, which then gives us that guidance. So if you look at JH-R, it talks about all the different individuals involved in the process of attendance in terms of parents getting students on time, students responsible to be in class, teachers taking timely attendance. It's all just general recommendations, but there's no specifics. One of the questions that continually came up over the years is, with our tardies at the elementary level, is what's considered a tardy, what's considered an absence. Our previous policy, JH and JH-R, said schools will develop their own policies around tardies and how they handle them. What we have seemed to experience on a regular basis is schools not really being clear about it and then always looking to the district for guidance on what their policy should be because they are the ones that should have been designing it. Rather than always running into that concern, let's be consistent across the board so we don't have kids who go from one elementary school and say, well, they do it this way over here and they do it this way over here. This way we have that consistency across the board and we eliminate some of those arguments that we might have from parents and saying, I never marked my kid tardy for being 10 minutes late, I don't know what you are. So it's just combining the two policies into one, giving more clarity and detail about how we handle those situations and then defining what a tardy is and how we handle that.
Thank you.
Dr. Hyde.
I took care of it.
That took care of it. Any more questions? Roll call, Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Policy JH-R will move forward for second reading and possible deletion. Under resolution item 3.1, I need a motion for approval to accept funds from My High United Way.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation for item 3.1, approval to accept funds from Mile High United Way.
I second it.
Is there a discussion? No discussion. Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Under item 4.1, I need a motion for approval 2018-2019 calendar of Board of Education meetings and posting location.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 4.1, approval of 2018-2019 calendar of Board of Education meetings and posting location.
Is
I second it.
there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it possible to have it posted electronically as well?
I believe it is posted electronically to Dr. Hyde. Monica, could you tell Dr. Hyde where it's located electronically?
It's on the website.
It's okay, okay. So, why is this, why is the board being asked to approve the posting location?
Because the official posting location has to be approved by the Board of Education.
Is that's annually approved?
And it's about state law too, right? State law.
So, yes.
Okay,
And it's posted outside the front door when they come in.
okay, thank you.
Any more questions? No more questions. Monica, roll call, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.2, I need a motion for approval to purchase iStation Webinar Professional Development Training for Monaco Elementary School.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 4.2, approval to purchase iStation's webinar professional development training for Monaco Elementary.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.3, I need a motion for approval for allocation of funds for a temporary table of authorization personnel increase of a 1.0 full-time employee for 2018-2019 school year of middle school alternative of expulsion program for Adams City Middle School and Kearney Middle School.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 4.3.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. What does RTL stand for?
Yes.
So the RTI stands for Response to Intervention. So this is an intervention that we're providing for our most at-risk students, whether it's around behavior or academics.
Thank you. Was this initiated by the district or by a particular school?
Both. So it was a position that we had last year. It's a grant-funded position, so it goes year to year. So we're seeking approval to extend that position as we still have a need for it in our middle schools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Roll call, Monica, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.4, I need a motion for approval for allocation of a full-time equivalency conversion from 1.0 illiterate special education teacher position to a 2.0 full-time special education paraprofessional.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.4.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Moreno, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I was curious, it says here that we've had an influx of students transfer with significant behavioral and emotional challenges. I'm just wondering if we've unpacked that at all, kind of where did they transfer from? Do we have any of that data?
At this time, I'm sorry, I do not have that data. I can get it for the board.
Great, thank you.
Just a moment, please. And can you have that data for us by our Friday updates, please? And can you get those to Monica?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? Monica, can I roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.5. I need a motion for approval for allocation of full-time equivalency conversion 1.0 full-time autism coordinator to a 1.0 full-time special education paraprofessional and use savings to fund a 1.0 full-time intervention specialist.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.5.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.6, I need a motion for approval for repair service and part purchasing with McCandless Truck Center exceeding $25,000 per policy DJ for the 2018-19 school year.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.6.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, is this a continuation? I'd like to ask the district about, is this something new, or is this kind of continuation of what we've been doing in the past?
Exactly, Dr. Hyde, it is a continuation. This is one of the only authorized vendors for our IC buses that we have. We currently have 7 in our fleet right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just out of curiosity, since there really is only one provider in the region that can service those buses, are they nearing the end of their useful life? Are we looking at retiring those and maybe bringing some new ones on eventually, or any status update on that?
It's a great question. We're actually in the process of doing a recycle program with this district right now, making sure that our vehicles, at some point in time when we get there, will have no more of an age of 8 or 9 years, which is that is when they start to go downhill, so to speak, and the costs increase with maintenance. But they are not, we have a range of anywhere from 2005 to 2011 right now with our ICs.
Mr. Milner and Mr. Francisco, can y'all provide Mr. Moreno a copy of that sheet y'all provided us before you came to the board of how y'all was gonna bring in new vehicles and buses, so he'll be caught up of those vehicles, please?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.7, I need a motion for approval contract with Advance for a professional service of licensed speech and language pathologists.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.7.
I second it.
And is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we have a number of professional personnel for which we're having a difficult time filling. And I think it states that it was posted for 4 months without either any inquiries or without any qualified inquiries. And what does advanced do or advanced do that we don't do? How are they going to fill this position if we've had it open for 4 months and haven't had any nibbles?
Good evening. Advanced is a contract company that provides these professionals. So when we can't bring staff members on board through the district and become our own staff, we have to reach out to contract companies. There's a lot of the related service providers, such as speech and language, school psychologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, that prefer to work for these contract companies. They make a much higher salary, and then they're not part of a district. A lot of times people will travel from state to state.
So these are just for clarification, so advanced has a host of floaters, let's say, versus, it's not like Kelly Services that they don't, Kelly Services for substitutes. But I guess the distinction I'm trying to get in my head is you're essentially hiring someone who's employed by advanced.
Correct.
Rather than using an agency that simply puts us in contact with, in this case, a speech pathologist.
Advanced is the agency that has a bank of these types of employees, and they search nationwide to see who would want to pick up a job in Colorado, in a small district outside of Denver.
Right. So they when they come to work for Adams 14, they are really responsible to advanced rather than to Adams 14.
So we negotiate a contract with a specific amount of days, what the work days are, what their job responsibilities are, what their caseload is. So they're going to report directly to whoever's directly supervising them. Oftentimes it's me, and I'm checking their attendance and things like that. Based on their performance here, then we make payment to advance so they get their paycheck.
And last question, just generally speaking, just ballpark, what's the premium that Adams 14 pays for a service of this sort?
So it depends on what the related service providers. Right now, the highest in demand is our school psychologists. We have a big shortage in the state of Colorado. We can look at anywhere from $120,000 to $140,000.
Yes. What's the premium that the district pays for these personnel?
$120,000 to $140,000.
Let me rephrase it. If you were to go out on your own into the marketplace, now my understanding is nobody's responded, but there still is a marketplace, although it's perhaps very thin. But what would you expect to pay for a speech pathologist or a school psychologist?
On our district's salary schedule?
Right.
It depends on their years of experience and how long they've been working. So we would start at the beginning of the teacher salary schedule.
Right. So let's say it's 80 grand. How much more beyond 80 grand do you pay in order to use Solient, I guess it is, or advanced? What's the
those
additional amount of money that we pay to the contractor?
$40,000 to
for their providers?
$50,000.
How much?
$40,000 to $50,000 additional dollars.
So, wow. So you're saying that we could get a speech pathologist for 40 grand?
We could hire a speech pathologist for anywhere from 40 to wherever their years of experience are and their educational is and where they fall on the teacher salary schedule for a significantly less than we pay for contract employees.
Right. So, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
Thank
Moreno.
you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up on that, did we attempt to change the salary classification of the job at all in order to try to attract?
We've done
folks?
a lot of innovative things. We've had a signing bonus this year for the first time, which is a $2,000 signing bonus for these hard-to-fill positions. So that was something that the rest of the metro districts are doing as well. We do have a really strong competitive salary schedule. Our universities are not turning out licensed practitioners at the rate that we need to fill them in a public education. People are not going into the field of school psychology like we once saw, speech and language pathology, and they're in high demand, and they're picking and choosing where they want to work.
Thank you.
Excuse me, one more follow-up question, please. Are you through, Mr. Moreno?
Yes, thank you.
If the premium is $40,000 or $50,000, we could bump up the bonus, the signing bonus, from $2,000 to, let's say, $25,000 or $30,000, and perhaps secure the people we want and still save money over contracting it out to advanced. So I don't, why are we stuck on a $2,000? I understand we have a signing bonus of $2,000 for some, I think, paraprofessionals, but they're not making these kind of dollars. And so if we really want to recruit these advanced degree people, it seems to me the signing bonus ought to be a substantial portion of the premium that we would pay for a contractor to do it for us.
Good evening, Board, and I just wanted to add to that a little bit to clarify what that premium is. You know, the start of our salary schedule starts at about $40,000. Usually for a psychologist and social worker, those positions typically have a master's degree. So when you're looking at our salary schedule, you're really looking to $65,000, $70,000, maybe or more. Our salary schedule goes up to about $90,000. And then you're not looking at the para and our benefits, which is 22% on top of that, plus about $5,000 for insurance. So when you say start somebody off at $40,000, add another $15,000 to $20,000 on top of that to actually get the total amount of that the district would be paying. So bare minimum, somebody coming in brand new, bachelor's degree, year one, you're looking at $65,000. So $65,000 compared to the $86,000 that we're requesting, shrinks that. And when you're looking for a psychologist and social worker who has experience plus, some more education, you're probably right, pretty close to on target as to what we're paying for that $86,000. So the premium significantly shrinks when we look at that. Not looking just at salary, and we're not paying the benefits to this service. We're just paying that base $86,000.
Mr. Moreno,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's exactly what I was going to point out. You're saving on the benefits, so they're roughly comparable or should be. So thank you.
Excuse me, can you two ladies please tell your title and your name for the record?
My name is Kim Sini. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Services, and I supervise all the related service providers for the district: nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, school psychologists, school social workers, and speech and language pathologists.
Shay Carter, and I am the Director of Student Services.
Thank you. Doctor, you got any more
That's fine, thanks.
Any more questions? Monica, can I get roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. 4.8, I need a motion for approval for conversion of 1.0 full-time special education paraprofessional allocation to 1.0 full-time support and tech allocation as a career specialist for the Transition School to Work Alliance program.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.8.
I second it.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I understand a number of these conversions, but this one seems to be crossing over from one major service area into another. And I'd like clarification as to whether that is happening and whether that's really what the justification for that is. To put a little meat on the bones, what I'm saying here is that it looks like you're taking a person who's in, or a position that's in special ed and switching him over that position to transition school, work alliance, which to me is a totally different line item from special ed.
Under special education law, we service children age 3 through 21. Our transition and swap program, we have a coordinator on board, and she services our population of 18 to 21. So these children or these young adults are individuals with disabilities. So it is within the special education, and her grant, or the grant that we have for the swap and transition program, funds this position.
Thank you for the clarification.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Monica, can I roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde.
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Mr. Rolla.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye. 4.9, I need a motion for approval for allocation of funds for a table of authorized personnel increase of 1.0 full-time employee for a health coordinator for student services.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.9.
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question. I imagine this position will work very closely with our school-based health center, right? Community, or I'm sorry, that was their old name, Kids First Healthcare?
Yes, this position will. We are seeing an increase in our wraparound services that we're able to provide our students, and we're very proud of that, such as with our new partnership with Salud for district-wide dental services. And when we are providing more services, we're seeing a greater need in coordination and able to provide all those services.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Monica, can I roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde.
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Mr. Rolla.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye. Item 4.10, I need a motion for approval to contract with Soliant for professional service of a licensed school psychologist.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.10.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Come up, please. There you go, Dr. Hyde.
Is the psychologist a roving psychologist used throughout the whole district, or would that person be assigned to a particular school or have a particular schedule?
This school psychologist is going to be placed at preschool, so we'll be servicing preschool, STARS, Sandville, the Child Find Evaluation C to B.
Exclusively? Okay, thank you.
Is there any more questions? Can I roll call Monica, please?
Dr. Hyde.
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Mr. Rolla.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye. 4.11, I need a motion for approval to purchase paper from Veritiva. I might have said it wrong. Veritive.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.11.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde.
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Mr. Rolla.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye. 4.12, I need a motion for approval to purchase janitorial supplies and cleaning products from Waxy Sanitarial Supply.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.12.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 4.13, I need a motion for approval of the contract with American Produce as the primary produce supplier for the nutrition service.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.13.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, it says that American Product is to supply all fresh produce. Do we have other vendors that are supplying something other than fresh produce?
Yes, we have a prime vendor, Food Service of America, that provides our canned and frozen vegetables, and also we get it from DOD and USDA.
Okay, so American Product is a niche.
Yeah.
Could you please provide your name and title for the district, please?
Kasha Larson, Manager of Nutrition Services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You good, Dr. Hyde? Any more questions? Monica, could you please do roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. 4.14, I need a motion for approval to contract with Cooperative Strategies as the district's owner representative for Alsup Elementary and the BEST grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.14.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I expect this is the very long contract that we had in our packet, yes?
Correct. Yeah, I did just want to mention to the board that we do have two gentlemen representing Co-op Strategies here, so if we had any specific questions for them, they are here to come and answer any questions that we have, if you'd like to.
Can they come up, please?
Hi, nice to meet you. Kevin Huber, Cooperative Strategies.
Scott Newell, Cooperative Strategies.
Just for the record, could y'all tell us something about your company for 1 to 2 minutes, about yourself, what y'all plan on doing, how y'all going to represent Adams 14, how y'all plan on representing the district, please? Thank you.
We plan to cooperate in a strategic manner. No. So my name's Scott Newell. I'm a partner of the company. And for the last 10 years prior to this job, I hung out at the state, the Department of Ed, and was the division director of the Division of Capital Construction there. And since then, moved to Cooperative Strategies. It's a national firm. We have an office in Irvine, California, here in Ohio, and then here in Colorado. We've helped several thousand school districts. We're explicitly K-12 planning, construction management, program management focused. And so we do everything from enrollment projections, master plans, attendance boundaries, ed adequacy, all the way up to helping finance programs through FA. We're not underwriters. And then on the back end, the construction and program management of implementing school construction. And so that's what we were hired for here. And the best way I think to look at an owner's rep is really as an extension of you guys. You've hired some new employees to oversee and manage this project and represent Adams 14 to make sure that the design, the construction, all the decisions that are occurring, all the communication and the transparency involved in that are being served in your best interest. And so that's our primary goal, is to make sure that you're being served, you're having transparency in all the documentation, we're having collaboration, and that this design that we go through as a public group is met in construction. I'll let Kevin introduce himself.
Kevin Huber. I also worked at the state with Scott for 7 years, kind of as his right-hand man as a regional program manager, similar to what your best representative is doing. And I'm a native, grew up here in Westminster, live in Lakewood right now with my family, have 2 younger kids, and just really appreciate this opportunity. We're really in the beginning stages of getting this going, so we're working with Sean and the team to develop a AE RFP and a CMGC construction manager RFP as well, kind of get them on board at the same time. Make sure we take time to do a really good competitive selection for you guys and get a good project going for this first one around.
Just give a little more background how we got to this point. We put out an RFQ for owner's rep for this position. We had 6 candidates and applications that came in. We narrowed that down to 3 that we brought in for an interview process. Through that, we had a rubric that we went through, and we came up to Co-op Strategies, negotiated a contract. Once we got that contract, we worked and sent that through Monica to John to make sure the contract looked forward. Both parties have agreed, and that's where we're at, to the point where we brought this to the board tonight. So are there any other questions from the board? One other thing to note, some of our next steps are to work with next step is architectural RFQ and a general contractor RFQ. So sometime in the next month or so, we're going to be looking to put that out there, and hopefully in October, we'll have those pieces in place to bring back to the board for approval so we can get moving onto the next steps for the Alsup building.
That's where I believe, for myself, I like Alex to be. That's how DAC and that's how the community is involved. That's how we let our community understand that this is what we're doing, instead of us trying to do everything in this building. They need to understand how things is going, how we trying to represent them in the right way and not behind closed doors. And board members, at least one board member should be able to sit on that, whatever committee or whatever y'all doing, to let us know from that board member what's going on. And communities need to know what's going on too, and it need to be also that we did hire this company. It need to be on channel 22 and let them know what's going on. DAC need to know, the schools need to know, communication needs to know what's going on. Thank you, Alex.
And
Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to hear that Cooperative Strategies has so much experience with BEST, because obviously that's how we're funding this initiative. So that's great. I did have, I guess, just a couple of questions to go along with Mr. Thomas's. What is our community engagement plan around this? I mean, it's a big deal for the community. We haven't built a new school since the newish Adams City High School, kind of oldish now, I guess. And so I think the community is really excited. And I actually just spoke to some residents at the Commerce City Neighborhood Outreach who've lived across from Alsup for 50 years, and they're excited about it, but also understandably want to know what's going to happen with the property.
So this was a huge part of our interview process. Was the communication, and we talked to this being kind of the centerpiece moving forward, the standard that we're going to set for the buildings moving forward. We know that the high school is 10 years old, but all of our other schools in the district are 40 to 50 years old. So this is a huge part of what Adams 14 is moving forward with, and sets the standard of what we want our schools to be as far as how they look from the outside, the exterior, and what we want the flow to be from the standards of a roof, the standards of the building layout, and things like that. So Scott might be able to talk to a little bit more, but the communication is a huge part of this too. We haven't really got the chance to meet. We met once, and we wanted to make sure we got pushed through and the contract is moved forward. But communication, and Alex, working with Alex, is going to be heavily involved in that. Once we get the architects on board, we're going to start to get some concept designs, and we want the community involved. Every stakeholder needs to be a part of this. So we're under the assumption to take the time and get this right and get the community feedback from this, rather than try and push this through. Like, this building's not going to be ready for next fiscal year. We're hoping that it could be done by December of 2020, but we want to take the time to make sure it's done right, so it won't be open for 2 more fiscal years. And we have 3 total years to make sure it's done right, but we're aiming for those 2 years. But community engagement and communication, working with Alex and Co-op Strategies, is one of our top priorities to move forward on this. And Alex or Scott.
So I think we know, just as you guys know, anything in the public eye will live and die by communication. And in this case, with the building project, it's organized chaos, and there's a lot of high expectations and a lot of desires and wants and needs, and of course a budget that is capped too. And so typically our process, we work with communications, and we recommend setting up a link on your page. There'd probably be one on Alsup and then also one on the district page. That would be that landing point for everything related to this project. So for us, when we do things like budgets, for example, we'll have our detailed budget for those that really want to dive into the nuts of all the way down to who's getting paid by invoice and what your expenditures are. But then we also create visual materials too, so you can see categorically where your dollars are being spent, how much is going into it for those that just really want that snapshot of, okay, I know that our dollars are being spent appropriately. Beyond that, when we go into design, we have multiple user groups, and this is something that when we go through our procurements for a architect, we define what those user groups and those standards should be and what the levels of communication should be. And for us, user groups are your teachers, your administration, your security folks, your technology folks, a core group of individuals that are a good cross-section of the community, and then the greater community. And so through each phase of the design, and they go through the programming of the spaces and the massing, different folks are invited to those groups so they can start formulating a plan, and then that's presented to a greater group for discussion and make sure that the vision and what's happening makes sense for the community. From a contractor standpoint, there's obviously the big question around local involvement and wanting to get folks involved that can work on the project. And we know that the state has standards for public works projects, so they need to meet those insurance requirements and other things. But there's ways to structure our procurements to set desires for amount of local participation, setting bid packs out so that a gentleman may not be able to build all the casework for the school, but they might be able to do a hallway or something like that. So being strategic with those procurements too. And then everything else is really, for us, just putting out deliverables that folks can see and then presenting to you guys and getting feedback from the community. For us, I mean, communication is a huge piece. Working at the state, managing several hundred projects, it always surprised me when consultants and other projects didn't communicate and how simple it is to just get information out there. This isn't our project, it's not the architect's project, it's your project and it's the community's project. And really, for us, not only do we have a desire to make this an exemplary project, but we do think it will set the stage for public goodwill and participation and transparency for the future. And that's another strong desire we have for this.
Yes,
Ed.
Mr. Moreno.
Go ahead, Alex, and then I'll ask my question. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, Senator Moreno, board members, Mr. Superintendent, I agree with everything that has been said. And what I would add is that hopefully we create a plan. Should you proceed with this contract, we create a plan and then we come back to the school board, whether it's in study session or other appropriate forums, and ask for your guidance. And I hope that that's kind of the habit that we start to create, especially on projects where we have 2 years, where we're planning now and creating processes and timelines and strategies that are going to be inclusive, that are going to be organic and authentic to be able to engage as many people as possible in our communities.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So right in that area, you obviously have the Alsup property, you have the current Adams City Middle School, and then a couple of blocks away you have the old Adams City High School site. Will the strategic plan essentially be a strategic plan for the entire vicinity? Because all those, I think, are very closely correlated.
So the initial thought was that we initially did go out for Alsup and the middle school last year for the best grant. We got Alsup, but we did not get the middle school to go through. We do want to proceed with going through the middle school again. Part of our initial conversation was, to build that middle school on the same high school lot, so it would be Alsup and middle school on the same lot there. And we've been trying to be creative to think how, shared services, if we're having those, not totally separate buildings, but if within a 2 to 3 year period we're going to be building both of those buildings, could we share loading, warehouse, possibly a kitchen that could be separated with 2 different cafeterias for both buildings, and then the possibility, this is all just initial conversation, but the possibility if we end up moving Alsup over there, what do we do with that property? And the light rail is potentially being built right there. which we could potentially sell and use that to collateralize to move forward with other buildings that are in need that we need. So, you know, these are initial conversations that we haven't really discussed at a high level yet, but those are some of the initial thoughts and ideas that we've had.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Hyde.
I have a question about the contract, and my understanding is the aggregate liability is $2 million, and the project is about $49 million. Is that sufficient? You know, and do we have any standard to determine its sufficiency? You know, it's 4%, which in my thinking is fairly low.
And Scott might be able to help me answer this too, but we're dealing specifically with the owner's reps, where we're going to also bring in architects and general contractors who will also have liability insurance. So typically when we bid this out, we'll have multiple contractors and they'll all have liability insurance. And Scott, I don't know if you want to add more.
Yeah, and the requirements around insurance requirements are much different for folks that are signing, like an engineer, for example, or an architect, that have a liability for their craftsmanship and specification, if you will. So when, for example, the contractor, their payment performance bond and their insurance requirements are substantially more, which are almost a net effect of the total amount of the construction dollars, and same with the architect. So for folks in our arena, which are consultants, and it doesn't just land on us, but other consultants they may have on the project that are looking at things, their insurance requirements are a little different because they're not signing for some form of liability of the constructability of the project.
So when you get contracts from other entities, you look at those, you look at their liability. I mean, I'm just was thinking, you know, what if they go ahead and pour, you know, a zillion cubic feet of concrete and it doesn't pass the compression test? Mm-hmm. You got more than a $2 million problem.
Yes, you do. And there are Colorado revised statutes around those types of contracts for those service providers that I mentioned. And I know, Kevin, you were mentioning something in the background too.
Kevin was just saying, you know, that's the our pool recommends that $2 million for, you know, this specific work. But again, when we start subcontracting this out and actually bidding it out, you know, those liability insurance will cover, you know, it's a $47 million contract. So if something goes wrong, this just isn't the organization that would cover a $47 million worth of liability, because we're going through architects, we're going through general contractors and different subcontractors.
And John, our lawyer, did look at the contract, so I'm sure he felt that $2 million was sustainable for us to carry on with the contract.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I did review the agreement. In fact, the agreement that you have before you is a rewritten agreement, so it follows standard practice for owners' rep agreements in Colorado for best projects. The insurance, I didn't make a risk management determination. That's not my role here about the amounts, but the amounts are in line with what the district's insurer generally recommends, and certainly consistent with, I believe, the state's best requirement for this type of agreement. It's important to keep in mind that insurance, it's professional, it's a requirement for this owner's rep to have to ensure their professional judgment and the service they're providing to the district. You know, all the other agreements, they're even longer and more complicated. They're going to be more complicated. They're, you know, you get into architects and construction agreements, and they're heavily regulated by the General Assembly, and you have, you know, very narrow time windows to raise issues. So if I'm asked to, I will certainly make sure that those agreements are looked at very carefully and that the insurance requirements are sufficient.
Is there any, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one last comment. Just to underscore the importance of
really engaging the neighborhood in this process. Between the light rail station, between directly adjacent to Alsup, the Urban Land Conservancy purchasing the old Adams County Human Services building. I mean, the opportunities for revitalization of this neighborhood are exponential. So we're not just building a school in this neighborhood. It could change the entire neighborhood. So just want to underscore the importance of that.
Any more discussion? Please come.
My name is Rosalie Gomez, and I live right across the street from Adams City Middle School. So as a person, I did look up on the website today because I was in Arizona 2.5 years taking care of my father, but before that I was coming to the meetings here. RTD, when they talked about light rail, they had meetings, they emailed us, they invited us to the community to get involved. So, they had talked about the old dog tract, how that was going to be redeveloped. They talked about doing professional development where the old high school was at, all these things, and I come back and nothing was done. And so I'm back here, I want to be here. I was looking up on the website today how they want to change that area, and this is just my impression just from looking at it, is where the Allsup's at and where the middle school's at. Eventually they're going to put housing in there, kind of like they did with the old Elitch's in Denver that was on 38. They want to put in single-family housing to update the area in that. But to get the community involved, RTD was very good at making sure we were aware of those notices. I do get the Commerce City Public every month in the mail, but still I find out some of my neighbors don't know anything. And so if there's a way where at the schools, because those are the schools, that's a community that's going to be involved, if when they have the parent meetings or whatever, get their emails, because I still get emails from RTD about what's going on with light rail, and I'd like to get more information without me having to constantly be looking, and to have get-togethers so that we can put our input in as to what's going to happen in the neighborhood.
Can some district employee take this young lady's information down and make sure she get the information promptly, please? Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any more discussion? Monica, can we get roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno? Aye. Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 415, I need a motion for approval to renew licenses for Plato courseware from Epperton Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item 4.15.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 416, I need a motion for approval to purchase professional development services for elementary and secondary teachers from EL Achieve.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.16.
I second it.
Is there any discussion? I have a question, please. Can someone please tell me what is EL Achieve and what would it do to help our teachers in elementary and secondary, please?
I can definitely answer those questions.
And could you please state your name and for the record, what do you do for the district?
My name is Cheryl Green. I'm currently an ELD coordinator for Adams 14.
Thank you.
And I've been working with EL Achieve for a number of years, ever since I first entered the district.
Okay.
So I originally came on hired as a specialist for a K-5 ELD specifically.
Okay.
So EL Achieve was a company that is not only elementary, but it's also secondary. And it provides a lot of wonderful resources and a lot of wonderful curriculum for not just our English language learners, but all our students in the district. So just to break it down a little bit for you, systematic ELD is what we use during our 45-minute English language development block. However, we can also use this for our English-only students as well. It provides a very rigorous curriculum for our ELLs to learn the language that they need to succeed. So our Common Core state standards, they naturally assume native proficiency. So when we have words like coast or shoreline, those words are typically not addressed in instruction. So systematic ELD serves to provide this instruction to serve as a bridge so students can master the Common Core state standards.
Okay.
Then for a secondary level, we have constructing meaning, and constructing meaning is for all the content areas. So we're going to have all our teachers trained in the secondary schools. Middle school is actually almost 100% trained, and our high school, we currently have 30 new teachers in this cohort as well. So what we do during this is we use task and text analysis to analyze the language demands within the content areas so our students can succeed with the lessons.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Monica, can I roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 419, I need a motion for approval to use instructional general funds to purchase refreshments for staff.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.19.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to put a plug in for having nutrition-dense snacks and either sugar-free or low-sugar content snacks. Is that a reasonable request?
For the purpose of this, absolutely. The intent is clearly stated in our superintendent's recommendation. We just want to be able to offer some type of food and beverage when we have staff meetings, or it specifically outlined principal staff breakfast. As a former principal, I just reached in my pocket every time I wanted to feed the staff, and when you get into numbers of 75, it gets quite expensive to be able to provide that for your staff on a regular basis.
Well, what was the last part of what you said? It's expensive to do what?
It's expensive to feed your staff on a regular basis as a principal in your schools. Currently, that just comes right out of their pocket to be able to pay for any kind of breakfast, lunch, water, whatever it may be, currently in our schools. I do have a copy of the policy, the current policy that the board has. Permission, do you want to see it at all, or?
You can bring it, but
You already know it.
but
Fair enough.
you can share it with us, but I seen Mr. Swartz doing the teacher orientation at the high school, and we was talking about this. Provide more for a week with new teachers orientation. We should provide more food and more beverages for them and things of that nature when you got orientation, instead of not having things for them for the whole week. So I truly commend them for going to bat to bring this in front of us, and I thank you for this, Mr. Swartz, and that orientation y'all had that whole week. It went marvelous, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to the cost of the program. I was trying to encourage the district to purchase healthy snacks as opposed to donuts.
We can
and other
certainly
things.
work with nutrition services and
think-
review the wellness here in Adams 14. We do have that programming to follow those guidelines.
Dr. Hyde, what you got against donuts?
They're a lot cheaper, I will say. A donut is. However, I know we can easily eat that.
Nutrient-dense food maybe cost a little bit more, but they satiate your appetite much more quickly.
Absolutely. We don't want people falling asleep in the afternoon, right?
Superintendent.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think when we were discussing this, though, for our staff, that when we are, if the board approves it, if we are purchasing snacks or things for our staff or individuals, that we try to purchase these items from individuals from Commerce City so we can patronize our own people here. So
Yes.
I think that would be very important.
Yes, going back to what you spoke to in induction, Mr. Harvest, Thomas, we have new employees every year. Between, I'm going to say, 80 to 120 during my time here in Adams 14. And we want to be able to make that great impression, be able to offer them breakfast on a daily basis. Some of those dollars, I just paid for this year because the right thing to do, obviously, is to provide bottled water for your employees, and especially new employees. So just going back to that good impression, we want to leave with new employees here in Adams 14 and reflect that impression that all of you, I think, would like to make with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you.
Any more, I guess no more questions. Monica, can we have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. Item 420, I need a motion for approval for English Language Development Department to use funds for food, beverages at professional development throughout the 2018-19 school year.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item number 4.20.
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to make the same point without repeating it, but I'd like to, the staff to be diligent in trying to feed our people as healthily as we can. Thank you.
No more discussion. Make sure y'all go to Tasty Donuts. Healthy as possible. Monica, roll call, please.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. That takes us now to communications. Start with Mr. Roller, since you've been quiet all night. You first.
Just like to, first of all, welcome back all staff members, and hopefully it's not too late yet. But I'd like to welcome you back for a new school year, and hopefully we'll get things cooking and going, because when we had the welcome back for our staff at the event center, or the new church, I should say, it went great. And for my colleagues, you missed a heck of a speaker. That's all I can say is you weren't there, you missed a great speaker. He actually, when he gave his speech, it pertained to our school district, to our culture, meeting the same issues and things that we are facing in this community and how they went about doing it. And what was surprisingly is that the young man's only 33 years old, and he did such a great job for to let us know. And I think I didn't hear one bad word about this individual. Matter of fact, everybody was praising him. And I got to sit with him for lunch at La Casa, and a couple teachers were sitting there with him, and they said he was delighted to sit there and talk with this individual. And he also said, anybody from our district, when you go to Phoenix and you want to go up to the reservation, call him, and he'll tour you around the reservation and show you all the different things that he was able to talk about. There is a documentary, I believe, was there, Dr. J, that are based on his story. And it's coming out, I don't know, sometime this month, I believe. One has already been put out, what, 30 or 13 or something. It talks about him and the route that he had to run, or not that he ran, but his father ran when he left the boarding school. And he's going to talk about that. They have him doing the same route that his dad did. They had one little thing to it, but there, and he was talking about this route of what it takes to run. And I asked him, how do we compare, or how does the Navajo Nation compare to the runners from Kenya and all that? He goes, it's very interesting because everything is basically based on the same thing. He goes, it's amazing when you have one culture way over here and another one over here, how it's almost identical to what they do. And for the thing is, as we talk about health, the first thing that they had to do, the nation, Navajos, was they get up in the morning, they have to run. Run, run, run. And that's how he described it. And so I think you really missed a great speech. And I was talking to Dr. J. I hope we can find some funds that maybe we can bring them back to talk to our students and let them know that, hey, you have all this. He was the typical individual who a teacher would tell him something, he would do the opposite. And so he was not a well student until he realized that if he wanted to be on the cross-country team and the track team, that he had to keep his grades, and he became an A student. So if you get the opportunity, watch the movie. If it comes out on, hopefully Dr. J emails, or Mr. Sanchez will email us, so when it comes out, he said it's coming out to Northfield.
And if I could just elaborate on what Mr. Rolla said, the young man is going to be in a movie. It's in the theaters. It's going to be in Boulder, I believe he said, in about 3 months. I forgot the name of the story, but basically what he was saying is that running is a way of life for the Navajo. And again, in other countries that turn out these outstanding runners, it's the same principle. They don't run just because it's the way of life. So thank you, and it was a great speaker. He did have many positive comments about him, and again, very inspirational.
That's good for me.
Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's good to have survived my first official board meeting. I'm going to knock on wood because it's not over yet. But honored to be a part of this work, and looking forward to working with each of you to best serve our students. First day of school on Thursday, I'm looking forward to spending all day in our schools, talking to parents, talking to students, thanking teachers and other staff for their commitment to our community. And then last thing, I don't know if this is the appropriate venue to bring it up. I'll chalk it up to me being new. But in previous years, the Board of Education has had a student representative, and I'd really like to reestablish that. So I don't know if that's something we can put on a study session agenda item or anything like that, but I think, students would bring a valuable perspective to our work. That's it.
Thank you. Dr. Hyde.
Yes. I'm going to give all of you a gift of time. So I don't have anything further to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, before you end it, may I say a few things?
Sure.
Okay, and again, too, I want to thank Senator Moreno for being on our schools, and I just want to let you know that all the members of our leadership, they have assignments. We're going to be at all our schools. We want all our leaders out there welcoming our students and welcoming our parents. And again, I encourage any board member who wants to join us, you're more than welcome, because we want to get a positive start off to our school year. The other thing, too, is I want to let you know we're starting to get our news about our frameworks, and the individuals that spoke here, I mean, we understand as a district that we need to improve. We are striving and doing our best to improve all our schools. And again, I think that you will be pleased. Can't tell you 100%, but we've gotten preliminary data, and our predictions look good that we're improving some of our schools. And again, we owe that to our community. And as soon as we get that information, we will share with the board and our community, because we are very proud of our work. Thank you.
All right. First, I want to say I would like to thank all the individuals who helped get the marquee sign fixed at the high school. Thank you so much for that. I really, truly appreciate that marquee sign working.
Didn't it bring tears to your eyes?
It did bring tears to my eyes, seriously. On July the 31st, I had the opportunity to stop by, it was registration. So I went by Adams City High School, Hanson, Kemp, Central, Kearney, Rose Hill, and Adams City Middle School. And staffs, they did all a marvelous job, so I want to say thank them for the parents, the families, the students, the stations, everybody was moving fast, so that's a big plus. So if you didn't hear any complaints about that, that's because they all worked together and had a system, and it worked together as a team. For the board and for everybody listening, the 57th Annual South Adams Fire Department Spaghetti Dinner is on Saturday, September the 8th, from 4:30 to 8 p.m. at Adams City High School. Board members have been provided with tickets. Can I get a consensus from the Board of Education to purchase and give out ice cream to the community during this event? Mr. Roller?
Been there every year. So.
But you got to say, you know, yeah. Dr. Hyde? Yeah. Yes, Monica, that's a consensus from the board for the ice cream.
Is it healthy ice cream?
I don't eat healthy all the time, so I don't. Also, can we have the board members sign up with Monica for time slots so there are at least 2 of us throughout the evening? That's from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8 p.m. So check your schedules. We're not going to do it tonight because sometimes we'll be here all night arguing about times. So please get with Monica what time you want to go. From September the 8th, the slots is from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. And last, I want to give a hope Madam Chair feeling better. And if y'all notice, Ms. Q is not here, so our prayers is with her and hope she's feeling better. So, Superintendent, you have spoken. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Monica, can I have roll call, please?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:40. Thank everybody for coming.